Hey, welcome back to another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk, but we're hungover. So, because it's still early in the morning, you might not be, but I know I am.
No, I was working.
You were working. Yeah. So, I mean, so were we, the crowd. So we have Crystal Williamson on from Lemon Seed Marketing, and we've had numerous conversations, over the last year and what you guys do, and finally been able to lock you down and getting onto the show. And I'm excited. One of the things that we're going to talk about today, branding, community involvement, employee engagement, marketing strategy, and tying that all together. So
absolutely.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. When I saw you downstairs, I was like, we have got to meet, because we are here at the Great Women in HVACR conference here in Jacksonville. So we're really excited to have all these great people here, but it was really great to find time to get together and chat.
Yeah.
Finally.
I know. I'm sorry.
Yes.
That's probably on me.
Yeah. Well, but the reality is that when you're at a conference is that, there's a lot of strings, and I mean, you're a board member of the Women in HVACR.
Yes,
you have a sponsor, you have your podcast here. So you guys have a lot on the go, and it's,
we do. We try to be where the people are.
Yeah.
And so I'm so passionate about home services. My family has owned and operated for over 48 years now, a heating and air conditioning company in East Texas, if you can't tell from my accent. But we added plumbing a couple of years ago. We're on target to do really well, for ourselves. We try really hard, and not just for ourselves, for our team. And so we're just passionate about the trades. And so when I got started doing this whole lemon seed thing, I have a fantastic partner. She and I are really good friends, and she's the graphic design side of life. And she and I were working together for my family's company. And we just decided, my brother actually said, we're so passionate about this, you should go do this for others. And so we basically are a fractional marketing department, but marketing is not just a good website. It's definitely an important piece, but it's not just a logo on a van. It's not just that you donate to the Little League team or that you have a good culture. I feel like it's the combination of all of those things.
Correct.
That make you successful.
Right.
And so I get passionate about talking about it. And so I was like, however long y'all need me to talk, I can talk. So.
Right. But that is a key thing, is marketing. Sometimes people just think that it's just your one medium. Well, no, it's everything. Marketing and your brand is really going into it. It's how do you look when you show up at a house, right?
Yes.
Does your vehicle, is it dirty? Did you wash it maybe? Or, you have a nice wrap on there,
smoking a cigarette and putting it out in the driveway.
Right. Do they come in still smelling like cigarette smoke? Do they walk up with their shirt untucked or looking like garbage? Or did they have, dirt on their clothes or grease from their last job?
Yeah,
right.
Even
all those things.
Yeah. And even things like, someone called your business to actually request services, and you were like, someone's got to call you back, or you went to a terrible answering service, or you went to an answering machine like it's 1986. You've done all these things that were not a good customer experience. And so branding, I had this question this morning. This lady was like, I already have a marketing company. And I was like, you don't have a lemon seed. But I said, what do you have? And they're like, I have a website. I'm like, yeah, that's a piece. Right. That's a piece of it. And again, I'll say this over and over again, a very important piece, but it is a piece of who you are. So you really want to have long-term growth and long-term success. You really need to build out this full comprehensive, whether you're a very small company or you're a $50 million company, it all comes down to the strategy of building your puzzle pieces together.
So we're looking at that in the strategy of putting it all together, and maybe we can use this person that you had a conversation with as an example. Well, I got a website. Okay, well, that's not your brand. Where would somebody go and start? Is there some place where they need to, what's point number one in order to be able to start building the brand the right way?
So the first thing that we always do, and this is a lemon seed thing, so other people might have a different strategy, but I always try to do a brand audit. So literally from someone that doesn't work in your company, I'm going to go look at what you look like. So the only things I know to do are to go look at your online presence in general. And so if I lived in your market, I should have experienced your vans, if you have any mass media like billboards and things like that. But like, what are your social media channels look like? What does your personal page look like? If you're very connected to your business and you're a whole entire full on your personal social media, that all is connected. But just taking a look at what your brand looks like, and is it a name or is it a brand? And there's a big difference in naming your company and branding your company. And so I always start with the that side of the business first. Like, let me just look at how people are going to engage with your company at first. And then we start looking at, now let's move down to what I would consider like big picture pieces like a good website, because all of this needs to flow together.
Right.
And so that's why I'm a big proponent of organic social media. You know, we kind of had a little conversation. Jen McKee here is from TikTok for the Trades, and that TikTok is where it's at. It's a great place to be. And she has a cool thing. She has a cool strategy about helping you get your brand out there. And so I just encourage people, like, really take a look at what you look like in the market. And that goes down to what we were talking about a while ago. Just overall, do you have a name or do you have a brand? There's just a really big difference in those two things.
Massive, right? In like when you think about names, I mean, people sometimes just go with their default last name, which is nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Well, you're looking at one. So I told y'all, you know, my last name is Williams. Crystal Williams. My maiden name is McWilliams. And so it's be really hard to hyphenate my name because I'd be Crystal McWilliams Williams. I just dropped the Mac there in the beginning. But, you know, my family's name, and we were red and blue. We still are red and blue, very traditional colors. But at the end of the day, we had to own it. We didn't have a choice. We had to own it. We created a mascot. We really owned. So don't be afraid. Like, there's nothing wrong with, oh my gosh, I'm red and blue, or I'm a plumber and I'm blue and I have a toilet, you know, or I'm an electrician and I'm yellow with a lightning bolt. You can still dominate and own those things. It's just more about making sure that you understand that you need to own those things. But yeah, your last name's not a deal breaker. Now, a lot of people need to change their name of their company. Because your last name is something super unique and weird and people can't remember it anyway, much less search it. So that's a challenge. Or you have a really cool mascot that name is kind of taken over. You've become, you know, the sailor company or the grasshopper company. Those are some cool search terms that you probably need to own and things like that. But there's a story behind who you are. You just need to find a way to tell it.
That's exactly it, right? Even looking at one of the local companies here, Bueller Air Conditioning, right? Another great brand, but built off of a last name. How do you start to work with a company to really create that brand story and help bring that to life and really be able to, because that's really what's going to make an impact in the market.
It's my favorite piece. It's my absolute favorite piece. You know why? Because I get to hear stories. I just want to hear stories. I want to hear why you started your business. I want to hear why you come to work every day. I want to hear about your past experiences. And we will have like an hour long, just this big brainstorm collaboration call. And before I know it, somebody's told me a whole reason and a brand behind what we can create for people. And so when we visit with them, I'm always asking, like, tell me about like what you did growing up. And they're like, oh, you always found me on the baseball field, or I was always doing this or that. So then, you know, you write that down, right? You cluster, you mind map like these, baseball was a thing. And then you keep going like, oh, well, my dad started the Little League company, the Little League in our town. And I'm like, okay, you know, all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is a whole baseball theme, but we don't have to go literal. You know, maybe we go to a different way with that. And I mean, there's just all these stories that we get to hear. One of my favorite stories that I tell a lot is we had this company call us, and the name of their company was like, you know, Brown Road Heating and Air Conditioning. And I was like, oh, so is your company like on Brown Road? Did you grow up on Brown Road? Like, no. Is your favorite color brown? Like, why did we choose Brown Road? And they're like, I used random name generator. And so I was like, okay, well, you have like a superhero as your mascot? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, so how does that relate to this brown? Oh, well, I just liked a superhero. So I was like, yeah, this is complete and total brand confusion. And there's no rhyme or reason behind it. So once we started talking, we started realizing that there was so much more to the story that we could relate. Because the guy was like panicked, like, please don't make me change my name. I hate naming my company. And we were like, well, let's try to make a story. And I also was talking to a couple of other people that do branding, and they were like, do you know how many people we get that they just chose a good logo? So they just chose like a pelican. And he's like, oh, why did you choose this pelican? And they're like, he's cute. And we're like, yeah, so we got to tell a story about a pelican, and it can't just be because he's cute. Like, you know, you got a pelican in the middle of Amarillo, Texas. So let's try to build a story around this pelican in the middle of the desert style area. So it's just an interesting thing, but I love it because you just need to start talking about your past, your future, what you want to do every day, what drives you. You know, were you a veteran? Do you love dogs? I mean, all these things make a brand. And you need to have a story. You need to have a story. You can't just put it out there without something behind it.
Great. Well, and that is true, right? Because like that brown, that's a hilarious example, by the way. But you see that a lot, right? And it happens quite a bit. So now that somebody has, a brand, and you've went through and you've built this story in this back end of their kids, how do you transition and position that into more of a community involvement side of things?
Yeah. So how I got started is, so I was a trade baby. I use that term all the time. I grew up in the industry. So when my family had their own heating and air conditioning company, I answered phones. I was like old school. So shout out to the people that are going to remember like where you used a radio that said base to unit 101, base to unit 2, because we didn't have cell phones. We had to deal with radios. So, I mean, I'm telling my age a little bit, but we had to do radio. So I lived that life. And then I was like, I ain't doing this. Like when I graduate, I want to go to college and I am not going to be doing this. Well, I ended up coming back. My brother calls me in 2014. He's like, hey, I need somebody to come out here and control like our messaging out into the market. I need help with employees. I need help with branding and co-op dollars and all that stuff. So when I started, I literally was like a community marketer, and people were like, you're an air conditioning company marketer? Like, tell me how that works, And so I was like, yeah, well, it was so important that what we were putting out to the public. So I owned community engagement because that is how boots on the ground strategy of just being engaging with our market. So we launched a mascot. We started taking the mascot everywhere with us. We were very intentional about what we sponsored in the market. So, everybody gets hit up like, oh, my baseball team, we've got a plate fundraiser. So I have this rule like no logos, no logo only. If it's logo only, that's not for me. Because I don't want to just put my logo somewhere. I want to be somewhere.
Right.
I want to take my team somewhere. I want to put us out there. I want to shake hands, kiss babies, give away stuff. That's what I want to do. So what we needed is I wanted to tell our story in the community. So I encourage my contractors now at Lemon Seed, like, get out there, stop putting your logo on banners that hang up everywhere, or at least that can't be your main strategy, and start being somewhere. So you want to sponsor Little League opening day? Get out there with your mascot and give out free Gatorade, or say you're going to match everything that the concession stand raises up to $1,000. You're going to match that on opening day. There are ways that people be like, oh, I know you guys. Y'all were at the baseball thing. Y'all were in the parade. Those are things that people engage with emotionally, and they don't need you right now. Right? They don't need you to fix their air conditioner. They don't need you to fix their plumbing. They don't need you to do those things, but they are engaging with you so that when they come home and it's 120 degrees in Texas at 5:30 and they're like, oh my gosh, I've got to call that stupid sailor company. What's their name? Like, right. Oh my God. And they go to that magnet, or they go to that hand fan that they got. And so it's a long-term strategy. But that community involvement piece will be a game changer. And you can ask, like, several of our contractors have really owned that piece, and they're at the festivals, in the parades, they're supporting the local, like the football teams. Again, my Texas shows quite often, but Friday Night Football is a whole thing. Like, it's a whole vibe. And so if our teams make the playoffs and there's a parade, I want to lead the parade. Sailor Max celebrates the Dieball Lumberjacks, the Lufkin Panthers. We are supporting those people so that people celebrate us. They celebrate our brand. They celebrate who we are. And then when they need us, they'll call us. Yep. And that's how you get 86% market share, is make it to where people love you so that they'll use you. So that's what community involvement's about. Nice.
I love that. Well, and like, I know for like, even in our community where I'm at, there's a company that, I know the company, I've known them for a long time, but they're also doing what you just said. We went to our minor league baseball team. I don't even think it's a minor league. It's like a junior team.
It's junior baseball.
It's junior baseball, whatever it is. We don't really get a high level of baseball. It's college kids that need a summer league. And they just started up. It's actually a really good baseball for it. But there's a truck from a plumber that they come up. It's their wrap truck, and they drive it around the outfield, and then they come around on the infield, and they're throwing out shirts the entire time, right? And it's just something that's so small that doesn't take a large effort, but it's that memorability that way when their shit's broken and they search your company out. But then they also have to have continuity when they get to the website.
Yes. Right? Yes. All that's got to come together. Yeah. So they shouldn't get a shirt that has a really cool brand on it, then go to your website that doesn't load with the wrong brand. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a powerful thing because it's owning search, right? And this is something that, we talk about. We're a marketing company, digital marketing company. We do SEO. Yeah, you want to show up when people search AC repair, but wouldn't you rather people search your company instead?
Well, isn't it cheaper?
Absolutely.
Right. So in the grand scheme of things, if I can make people know my name, they don't go free agent on me. AC repair near me, like, I'm like, that's like that is like the most expensive place to be. Like all of a sudden I'm now at a Coach store,
Right.
Louis Vuitton store, trying to buy a purse here, when at the end of the day, all I want them to do is know my name and search my name. Because people are like, how do I drive my lead costs down? Spend more time engaging with your customers.
Well, and have that memorable brand. But the other part is, even if they do search AC repair near me, you should still try to be up there, because if they have that brand familiarity with your name and then they see it and they're like, man, oh yeah, that name sounds familiar. I feel like I trust them. Boom, they click on it, right? And then they're on the website, and now everything's matched because of it.
That's why when I started off, I was like, it is it's a puzzle that you put together. So it's not one piece. So people say, well, I already have an SEO company. I'm like, great. We got to keep going. Like, we got to keep compounding our full marketing strategy. People just don't, you got to recognize that piece for 100%.
Sure. Well, and the interesting thing too, with this type of a conversation with smaller companies, they think, oh, well, I'll do that part later. Yeah. Right. Branding's going to be important later. I just need to make sales. It's too expensive. It takes too long. I need sales today. And yet these are the things that they require more time than money. Those sponsorships are not expensive. To sponsor the Little League team and go show up and buy freezies for the kids, huge.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, and you want to talk about raving fans is when you invite the baseball team, the 9 and 10-year-old all-star baseball team, to your office, and you give them Gatorades or Powerades that are in the color of their team, and your mascot's there cheering it on, and it costs you $75. You post it on your social media channels, and you're high-fiving them and saying, go Fi win. We hope you win. And here's $300 towards the cost of travel. The parents themselves are like, we love local businesses. And like, it's free, literally, in the grand scheme of things, free advertising.
Absolutely.
It's pennies on the dollars in terms of the return. And then here's what you also do with those videos is when you post them, run those not even as a full ad, but just boost it as video views to your area and your community. And now it's going to get more traction too, with other people seeing it, and it's going to get shared. It's going to get engaged.
Kind. Yeah. That company is so kind. That's exactly what happens.
100%.
But one little thing you said really quick about when people start off. So I've had this little influx of contractors or to-be contractors that have reached out to Lemon Seed lately. And normally, I try not to be, but sometimes I'm like, oh, this guy's pretty small. Like, he's probably not. So, but lately I've had these like really forward-thinking contractors are like, hey, my goal is to do $500,000 this year, but I want to spend $100,000 in marketing. Like, I'm ready. I've prepared for this moment. I'm ready. Or they have like somebody helping them, like financially, like support the business for the first couple of years to get it profitable. And those are the people that, like, man, they don't hit 500,000 their first year. They hit $1 million in their first year, or 2 million. And people are like, these people aren't doing it. I'm like, yes, they are. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some wildness out there, right? And I shared this earlier before we started this, like people that beat their chest. A lot of times I'm like, you're probably not doing a lot. But there are some stealthy movers in this industry. And sometimes like, y'all need to be, it ain't the loud ones on social media that you need to be watching. There are stealthy movers in this industry. And some of them are very small, but they are just ticking away at competition because they're deliberate and they're very intentional with a marketing, like a branding strategy and a paid ad strategy, and bringing them together. So just don't underestimate those small guys, man. Some of them are rolling, and I'm like, okay,
they're gonna come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you're gonna be like, what happened to my market share? And I'm like, well, you remember, because they'll say, my contractor will say, oh, it's just one little billboard. So I tell them all the time, let me tell you what you watch. You watch consistency. So everybody will get a little flash in the pan, like they go through summer, they get a little cash, and now they're all gung ho. So they'll launch this billboard campaign or radio campaign or some sort of like very public campaign, and they'll launch it, but they can't keep up the consistency because it requires dedication. It requires strategy. So then like all of a sudden they're nowhere. So they're all over the radio. And then the beginning of the year hits for AC contractors, and they're like, what happened to the leads? Well, these people ran out of money. And so I watch consistency. So I tell my contractors, you need to watch who's being very consistent in your market, because those are who you need to watch. Those are who you need to pay attention to, because we all need to know like what our competition is doing. So anyway, it's a good thought there,
right?
To not be blindsided.
So in terms of consistency in what you're seeing, so the economic woes that are either happening or about to happen, and some people might not even say that it's even going to happen. So insert your belief here on that. But if we are going into recession, how does one continue consistency in their branding message while in a recession?
So I say this all the time. The people that don't back off on their marketing are going to be the ones that survive. So I laugh a little bit about this, and not, it's sometimes I have to laugh so I don't cry, but the first thing that people do is they look all their vendors at what they can cut. And I always say, did you look at where you could be more efficient first? Mm-hmm. Did you look at underperforming team members? Did you look at your pricing? Did you look at all these other things before your first reaction? And it's not just lemon seed. I mean, it's before you cut back on your paid ads or before you decided that you were going to stop doing direct mail. I had a contractor they were dropping direct mail, $1,500. Nothing a month. Well, nothing in the grand scheme of things. This company was an $8 million company. So $1,500 a month in marketing. It was generating about $60,000 a month in revenue. And they were like, but it's ugly and we need to cut costs. So I was like, okay. So instead of making technicians be more efficient and get our average tickets and things like that, instead of putting our eyeballs over there, the first thing we do is cut things that are working.
Right.
And I'm like, it blows my mind sometimes. So should you dial in and get very intentional about where you're spending money? Absolutely. That'd be the first thing that I did. But you can't take your eye off the branding ball, and you can't decide that the only place you're going to cut is your marketing. Like, take a look and say, maybe you need to get a little bit more training. So you invest in training and watch the outcome, because there is probably operational efficiencies that you could launch right now. Now's a good opportunity. Mm-hmm. Get lean and mean, but not just with your marketing spend. Right. Get lean and mean everywhere. Some of you need to raise your prices and you'll automatically raise it up and be where you were. But yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
Well, and the efficiency is a big one. Billy Stevens, a big proponent, big talker of this, the average. And I think there's some other people that have talked with roughly these same numbers, that the average plumbing and HVAC company is about 35% efficient with your tech and your manpower. Now, if you can just double that to get it up to 70% efficiency, or even 78 or 80, well, shit, what did you just do? You just increased your bottom line just by efficiencies inside your business, and now you don't have to cut money on marketing.
Even with Lemon Seed. So Lemon Seed, we do the same thing. I mean, I'm a business too. Yep. And so we're always looking at ways like, how do we keep the customer feel the same, provide the same high quality that we can try to provide. We do our very best to provide high quality support services to contractors. But we also have a responsibility to be efficient so that contractors are getting the best for their money and we're getting the best for our investment in our team. And it's a strategy, and it's not always fun to look and go, where am I failing my people? Where am I priced incorrectly? Where are the holes? Right, yeah. But again, I'm telling you, it never fails. If we have a slow January, February, contractors panic and they start pulling money back. And then I have this really good, solid group of contractors that are like, juice it, baby. Like, let's go. I'll own all their names. Like, I want to go buy all their names. I'm like, okay, you're a little aggressive, but let's do it. I'm here for it. You know? Yeah. So yeah, I think it's just me. This is my opinion. I think we've already sold the replacements of 2024. So I think when everybody had a cash on hand in 2021, 2022, I think that we were replacing systems sooner than they were really intended to be replaced. And so I think we're going to go through a 2024 that's going to be a mild year. And I say that just because I like to prepare for what I think might happen. If it is better than that, I'm going to pretend like I'm going to run my business as if it's not. But reality needs to set in a little bit. Like, maybe I need to plan for a slight lift. So if I've been planning, I'm going to grow 40% year over year, and I'm an $8 million company, I think I'm going to grow 40%. 2024 might be a struggle for you unless you are going to get super efficient, raise your prices, and go all in on marketing, because that's what it's going to take in 2024. That was not the case 2 years ago. Right. Contractors were making money. Like, I felt like they were laid back in an office chair. Money was just falling like manna from heaven. Money was just coming in the door. And now we got to work a lot harder, because what got us here won't get us there. So we got to work a little harder. So I'm preparing my contractors, like, let's prepare for a flat year, or probably a good year in 2024, but let's be a little aggressive. Let's try for 20% growth. Let's plan for it, go for it. And just, eagle eye everywhere we're spending money. It's just what you got to do.
Well, and what growth is it that you're focused on? Is it top line revenue, or is it bottom line profits?
Oh, good point.
Right. Because you could grow your profits and stay flat revenue wise simply by improving your efficiencies.
Good point. That's a good point. So, so many people are so total revenue focused, which I tend to stay total revenue focused because that's what we base our marketing spend off of. So this is the number one question I get. How much should I spend on marketing? 10% of what your revenue goal is, not what you did last year. People are like, well, last year I did 3 million, so I'm going to spend 300,000 in marketing. Or they'll say, I hit 3 million and I barely spent 3%. I'm like, imagine what you could have done with 10% in marketing. You did 3% without even like blinking an eye. Imagine what you could have really done with 10%. Now you're going to be over capacity. So we got another set of issues, but no, that's a great point. That's really really making yourself Lemon Seed. I'm going to have a conference in January for all of my contractors. If you're on plan with Lemon Seed, I have a conference. I do it in my hometown at my brother's business. And Trey talks a lot about his planning and other contractors. But one of the things that we talk about is really knowing your numbers. So not superficial numbers. Like I know my margins. I'm talking like understanding how to affect the bottom line versus top line revenue, understanding how to get more efficient, understanding how to price more specifically, how to even negotiate my rates with my manufacturer or my distributor. And those are things that's next level stuff, right? We're going next level. So those of you that are just getting started, but you're feeling good and you're ready to go to the next step, that's how you get going. You start worrying about margins versus top line revenue. So
100%.
Yeah.
Well, we are at the 25-minute mark, and I know we said we'd try to keep it to 25 minutes. I mean, look, we could probably go for another 30 minutes if we really needed to, but I mean, it's up to you and your time.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Right. Well, let's, so, we've covered a lot of the things so far that we wanted to chat about. The one that, I think of is, okay, you're working on efficiencies, you're working on this brand, you're working on this community involvement, you're working on, positioning yourself in 2024 where you might not have as many installs, you might have more repair work. How do you get the team on board with everything that you want to implement in terms of the brand and the strategy and the community involvement, everything?
Yeah. So number one, you got to hire for people that fit your culture. So if you want a very positive but hardworking culture, like teaching people to be positive about working hard, then that's the kind of people you need to hire. But more than anything, I think it's all about influencer marketing. So, right now everybody's like, oh, they're an influencer. You have those same influencers inside your business. Okay. So there are the people that drive the culture of your business. There is the technician that has influence. If he likes the new pay structure, everybody likes the new pay structure. If he likes the on-call schedule, everybody likes the on-call schedule. But if he doesn't, all hell's going to break loose, right? And before you know it, it's tainted the whole situation. So I like to identify my my influencers pretty quickly. And then if they're cancerous to the organization, you're going to have to figure that out quickly and let that go, which I suck at that. I am terrible because I'm super empathetic. So I always think people with a little coaching, they can get better. But odds are if you give them a little coaching and they don't respond, they're cancerous, move on. They need to go to a different place anyway. But I say getting these influencers bought in first. So if you're getting ready to change your on-call schedule, or you're getting ready to go up on pricing, or you're getting ready to, change distributors, change manufacturers, like some people get super in their feelings about those things. I bring those influencers in. And let's talk about what we're going to do. So tell me what are going to be our struggles. And you make them a part of your process. So, hey, we're thinking about launching really big into the community. What are some things that you guys are passionate about? So they get to say, oh, well, I adopted 2 kids. I'd love to help foster kids. And then this guy's like, oh, I love youth sports. I think youth sports teaches great leadership skills. So all of a sudden you start listening to the leaders of your team that are natural leaders, and you start adapting your strategies to what is meaningful to them. Now, I also say you can't live your life by committee. So sometimes it's not, hey, we're thinking about launching a maintenance plan. Hey guys, we are launching a maintenance plan and I want your feedback on how we can make it better. So there's some strategy there before you just go like live your life by committee. But when you get those influencers bought in and they are the ones that decide the discipline. So this is what I'm doing with my mid-managers. What we're about to discuss at our leadership planning, my mid-managers, I'm going to say, so what should be done? What do y'all think is a proper punishment when they don't hit deadlines? So if they miss deadline for social media content by 2 days, what's the punishment? So now when they have to inflict that punishment on their team, they were a part of the decision process. They're a lot more bought in than me saying, you got to go write them up.
Yep.
Go write them up. They missed it. And they're like, oh, well, what about this? And what about that? Well, no, remember, you and I decided that this was the best way. Or if I'm getting ready to change my pricing or change my offerings, I always try to rally my troops first so that when this goes out to my team, we look like a united front. And I've positioned people, but you also have to be enough of an owner to realize your idea may not be a good idea. May not be a good time. Maybe you've had a lot of tumultuous things. So the biggest thing I'm dealing with right now is clients getting ready to sell to PE. Our clients getting ready to sell to another company in town. And they're like, well, what about my people? And I'm like, well, what about your people? Right. So in here, I will say this. I have learned some people really care about their people, and some people say that because it sounds like they care about their people. But at the end of the day, if you're talking about, I'm going to walk away with $15 million or or $8 million, they don't care so much about their people sometimes. So it is a scary time. So I always tell, if you are the PE group or you are the new owner, the very first thing you need to do is dominate the employee engagement. I would be there earning their trust, because most of y'all are good people. I refuse to live in a world where most people are bad. Most of us are good people, right? We want to have good businesses. We're not here to fire people. We're not here to do all that, but it is a big change for people. So, I'm married to someone that they work for other people. And that is a challenge because, as an owner, I sit back and he'll complain about things. And I'm like, you have no idea what's happening on the back end, right? You have no idea what that owner is going through. But the other side of me is like, this is what it feels like to be in the dark. This is what it feels like to feel like you're in the dark. So I'm constantly reminded that we have an obligation to bring in those influencers, listen to their concerns, and automatically address those. And that comes from everything like moving locations, branding. We're changing our brand. My team's going to freak out. No, they're not. Only if you freak out. If you freak out, they will freak out. Okay. And then you've got to have some other leaders on your team. A lot of contractors, I think, are like riding solo. And they are like a one-man army against their team. And I have a contractor, like their whole service department walked out one day. And so at first I was like, oh my God, what happened? And they're like, we just started holding people accountable for their time, for their average tickets. And she's like, man, well, now those people are slowly coming back. Because guess why? Accountability is like your kids, right? My teenagers, so I have a 14, about to be 14, and a 16, about to be 17-year-old. And you know what? They don't like rules, okay? They don't like rules, but eventually they kind of come around to, oh man, and even simple things like we can't eat food in our bedrooms because we grow mold and we hide under our bed and we do ridiculous things. So we don't eat in our bedrooms. And their friends will come over and they're like, can we have snacks? And my kids are like, you got to eat in the living room. And I'm like, that's right. Because these are rules at our house. So it's the same thing. Like they don't always love it, but they respect it because I try to be respectful of my kids. So there's just a lot that you've got to take in hand. So employee engagement is super important. Another easy thing, and I know I'm ranting a little bit, but another easy thing, well, another easy thing about employee engagement is like actually doing things for your people. So, and I don't mean like big extravagant parties. I mean, like you show up on a Monday and everybody gets a brand new hat and you're like giving out $10, $12, $15, whatever. I live in Texas. Everything's cheap. $15 McDonald's gift cards or, Smoothie King gift cards. And you're like, hey, lunch is on me today. And here's a new hat. It's a great week. Go on the week. Right. Or so there's just one thing that we did. We buy out a little small water park. And so our team members can bring their family, but guess what else they can bring? 5 other people. Wow. 5 other people. You know why? Because now what I'm doing is exposing those 5 people to our brand and our company culture. And those people are going to spread the word like, oh yeah, I got to go to the McWilliams water park party and they were giving out swag and they were giving out food and everybody was so nice. And the leadership team is out there. They're shaking hands. Good to see you. We're taking pictures. We've got foam and water slides and people walk away like, man, this was a good time. You know what it cost our company? Like $3,500, right? And $3,500, not only did I get to like be kind to my team and their families, but they brought other people to be exposed to my brand. And so that's just caring about your people. And a lot of you care, but you're just a little lazy to put something together. You're too lazy to plan a little picnic or, well, what if people don't like what I cook? Okay, there's going to be those people, but are you having a holiday party? Can you take them all to the Mexican restaurant, rent out the big room? Like start small, friends, start small. But just start doing some stuff with them and things that they care about. So like our team, again, y'all, if I haven't said it, I'll say it again. I live in East Texas. You know what they like to do? Hunt. I made a joke last night. We could say we're having a squirrel hunt. You're going to come out here and kill squirrels. We'd have half of our team be like, I'm here. I'm ready. Let's shoot up some squirrels. Guns. Yeah, let's do it. We're going to kill raccoons. Great. All they want is the opportunity to do cool things. And so a lot of you have access to things that you just never thought about, deep sea fishing, things like that. So I just encourage you, like employee engagement is being meaningful, building meaningful relationships with them and making sure holding your leadership team accountable to those things. So if you expect your team members to be there at 7, that means my leadership team is there at 6:45, not 7:05. They don't earn the ability to now not follow the rules. They get the great gift of being early as a leader, So those things just really help mold your employee engagement. We, my brother's kind of working on some companies that want to be bought. So we're evaluating them. Like, why do they have 28% turnover? We have like 4% turnover. And I'm like, 28%, like that's a problem. Oh, well, the big companies are sucking them up. People leave bad cultures a lot of times. Now I say that Lemon Seed's lost people. And you know what? I try to learn from every single time an employee leaves our company, right? I try to learn from it. Sometimes it's thank you, Jesus. And then sometimes it's like, oh, dang, what did we do? We should have done something different. And so just being self-aware enough to own that is another important piece. So, okay, I'll step off my soapbox now.
It's the introspective look though, of like, okay, when this happens, could I have done something different?
Yeah.
Right. Or it's like, if, for us in our marketing company, well, we lost a client. Well, why? What could we have done different?
Correct.
Was it an internal factor that we could have changed, or was it something external that we had no control on? When you have that introspective look, it's going to make you a bigger person and a better company as a result of it.
Absolutely.
Right?
And sometimes it's looking at what you did right. Like this was, no matter how good we did, we couldn't keep this customers or external forces there. But self-awareness, man, for your company, for yourself, for your leadership style is super important. Absolutely.
Well, even looking at, like we were talking about, the thing that I come to mind is there's 3 C's. When you're having this conversation with your leadership group, when you're buying them in to what you want to do, do you want to consult with them or on something? Do you want to collaborate with them, or do you want to communicate to them? Right. And so when you're consulting, each one obviously has a different thing. So be aware of your intentions too, when you're having those conversations on a particular topic, right? There are things that as an owner, as a leader, you just want to communicate to them. Hey, here's what we're doing. We've already decided. Here's the communication path, right? If you're collaborating, now they feel like they're part of the decision-making process. Now, if they're consulting, it's just, okay, well, you're giving your information in, we're taking it into, an opinion. We may or may not use it, right? And just being clear with those 3 things when you're having those conversations is critical.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the same thing goes with even like, I almost switch gears for a second, but it's even like being a good vendor partner, right? So people come to me like, oh, I hate my digital company. And I'm like, okay, well, let's take a deep breath. Why do we hate them? Well, it's not making any money. Okay. So we don't hate them. It's not performing. Right. So let's take a deep dive and see why it's not performing. And then they'll say, well, I haven't, this is not generating any money. And I'm like, well, so have you told them? Well, no. Okay. So they think they're doing great and you've not given any feedback. Like, I need more plumbing calls. I need more heat calls. You're just sitting back and waiting on them to read your P&L. What do you want them to do? So we have to be good communicators to our vendor partners, to our team members, to our community. That's why marketing is way more complex than one simple thing.
100%. The other thing I want to make sure that we pointed out, and one with those 3 C's, I love that aspect of it. Too. And you can still blend it together. It doesn't have to be just one or the other, right? Like you said, where you can say, hey, we're moving forward with maintenance agreements, and now we can collaborate. So you're communicating to them that this is what we're doing, and you can be collaborative at the same time and get their input on how to roll that out or what's all included in it, right? So I love that part of it. And then the other aspect was around the team events. Spend that little bit extra and hire the videographer to come in. So that you can create the content. Now you've got the social proof, and that not only helps with community engagement and bringing people into the culture of the company and seeing that you're a great company, and it helps marketing, but what are you doing for recruiting? What are you doing to try and get in front of other people out there that would see that and say, hey, well, that looks like a great place to work.
And now they've engaged, they've sat by the pool while the kids splashed around and met the service coordinator or the install coordinator. I mean, it's not as hard as people make it out to be. It's more about being intentional. 100%.
Well, let's wrap things up here because I know we got to go back to the event, and I think actually they're doing the booths now down there.
So we should
probably wrap that up and be out there. But as we wrap up, where can people find you?
Sure. So lemonseedmarketing.com. So we are really designed to be a fractional marketing officer for you. We are here to help you with strategy. Like, Crystal, where do we spend our money? How do we fix our brand? What do we do for social media? What do we do for these events? So we're here to help you partner with the right vendors and really make a splash of how to spend your marketing. So lemonseedmarketing.com. We also have our own podcast, From the Yellow Chair. So all social media channels, and we're here at Women at HVACR, set up outside, and we'll be we try to be at all the industry shows. So we'd love to visit, and thank you guys so much for having me on and just letting me rant.
Hey, thank you for coming on. It was great information.
Thank you.
It was phenomenal. So we have one last question though.
Okay.
What is one question that you wish people would ask you more, but don't?
Let me be truthful about their brand. Tell me about my branding and bring it to me and not be so self-conscious about it. Back.
No, I love it. Again, that goes full circle right to the very beginning, right?
Yes, absolutely.
If you're listening to this, ask the question to her and she will be straight up truthful. Poke holes.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hey, you're very welcome. And I guess until next time.
Absolutely.
Cheers. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.